Ready? Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you here to our Candidates Forum on behalf of the League of Women Voters. And I'd like to thank our candidates for being present with us tonight and being willing to answer the public's questions, and also for their willingness to run and serve our great city. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Jean Dell, who is the moderator for our event tonight, and she'll tell you about how we're going to proceed.
Thank you, Carolyn. Another league member I need to introduce to you. You probably met some of the other leaguers in the hallway. They would have given you cards to write your questions on. Tonight, Sarah Sells will be our timer, and that will make sure that everybody who speaks has an equal amount of time. And if they forget themselves, she will be the one that says your time has been used. What I'm going to do is review. The candidates all received a copy of the rules for this evening, and I'm going to briefly just go over them for you. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We reminded candidates that no campaign signs or banners could be brought into chambers. You all may be aware that GOTV is live streaming this event, and it will also be on YouTube. For any of you who may have to leave or come late, it will be on the, you go to the Ottumwa US channel, go to YouTube, and then if you click on the date of this forum, September 30th, you can watch the entire event. 9 candidates indicated they were willing to serve on the City Council of Ottumwa. We contacted all of them, and Ashley Nouriel is an active candidate. However, she also is a member of the U.S. Marine Reserves. She is required to drill on September 28th, 29th, and 30th. And thus, because of that obligation, she cannot participate. Her name is going to be on the ballot. She is an active candidate. And that's why you see her nameplate up there. Brad Steins, I've heard nothing from him. However, when we originally contacted him, he drives a truck and was not sure he could have complete control of his schedule. As you notice, the candidates are all seated in alphabetical order. They each have their own microphone. You should be able to know who they are because we have nameplates that are visible to you. Each candidate, when a question is asked, each of the candidates will have 1 minute to answer. And then at the end, they will make a 1-minute closing statement. Just for the purposes of time, Caroline will read the questions to the candidates. I would remind you, this is a forum, not a debate. We would ask you not to argue with your fellow candidates. The first matter we will take care of, each candidate has the opportunity to make a 1.5-minute opening statement. And because they're seated in alphabetical order, Kara will begin.
Good evening, all. My name is Kara Galloway. I am running because I believe in Ottumwa. I believe in the potential of Ottumwa. And most of all, I believe in the people of Ottumwa. I chose this city as the place that I am proud to raise my daughter and the place that I call home. We as a city have made forward steps in many areas, such as transparency in finances, economic development, and diversity, to name a few. And while I believe we still have steps to take, I understand what it takes to keep this momentum. And through speaking with city staff and being actively involved with the community over the last few years, I believe I am equipped and I am energized to be your next city council woman. I believe I am the best candidate because I am not coming in with an I know everything attitude or making promises that are unrealistic. I have a background of 14 years experience in human services, which has given me the knowledge and ability of looking at something from all sides and thinking outside of the box. And the biggest thing I have learned is how to have open, honest, professional communication, even when it is difficult. My management experience has taught me we live in a time where quality of life drives economic development. My involvement in the community shows that I am a hard worker, that I am dedicated, and that I am here for the ongoing betterment of our community. If anything, it shows that council title or not, I am devoted to working hard for our community and will continue to do so however I am able. I ask that you hear my ideas and support me on October 5th and again on November 2nd.
Thank you, Kara. Leroy?
Good evening. My name is Leroy Hanna, and I'm running for city council as well. Me and my wife have lived here in Ottumwa for about 16 years. We've been married 21 years as of today. I'm running as a blue collar worker, here to listen to ideas and try to follow through with each and every one of all the ideas we can come up with. And that's about all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Leroy. Russ?
Thank you. My name is Russ Hall. I am 40 years old, and for the last 14 years, I've drove truck over the road. And I'm running for city council because I've seen ideas out there, things that people have done at other cities that I think Ottumwa would benefit from. I think I would make a great city councilman because of those ideas, the things that I've seen, the places I've been. And this is my hometown. I've lived here my entire life. I love Ottumwa, and I know that people can get down on Ottumwa, but I love this city, and I want to see it prosper, and I want to see it grow even more, and I want to see people take pride in their community and bring industry here, more housing here, and basically more jobs here is what we need. So that's what I'm running for, to help build this city even more. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, I'm Doug McIntyre. I'm 59 years old. I'm married my fourth grade sweetheart and my best friend 18 years ago. Together, we have 4 daughters and 11 grandchildren. And I'm running for council because I woke up in May and I turned 59. The following month, we celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary. And I looked back and thought the first 18 years went pretty fast. And I thought the next 18 is going to go fast, if not faster. So I added the second 18 to the 59, and it came up to 77. So God put me on this earth to be a server. So I said to myself, I got more work to do. I'm very involved in the community already. I'm the chaplain at the VFW, and I'm the state disabled American veteran chaplain. I'm in charge of the local honor guard. So some of you guys may have seen me at veteran funerals. Since June of 2010, I've done 708 veteran funerals. I've coached youth football, volunteered for 26 years, and I'm currently coaching 7th grade football. So I'm very involved in the community. I was a mailman for 15 years, which got me to meet all different walks of life of people. And that's why I have so many friends today, and that's the main reason I'm running for city council.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Mitch?
Good evening. My name is Mitch Niner. I'm 57 years old, born and raised here in Ottumwa, along with my wife. She was born and raised here too. Tammy, we've been married 33 years. Together we have 3 kids and multiple grandkids. Graduated from OHS in '82, went on to Indian Hills, got an AAS in automotive collision technology, of which that is my profession. Currently, I'm paint tech at Vermeer Manufacturing in Pella. Several years ago, I went back to school. I have an AAS in greenhouse turfgrass management. I have an AAS in early childhood education. I have a BA in U.S. history and government, and I have a BA in psychology. Kind of one of those overeducated persons, I guess. we've lived here all our lives. This is our home. And I think we all, can agree on the same thing. We love Ottumwa. And, I've served 8 years prior on the city council, solid waste commission, liaison to the park board. I served 21 years with the Ottumwa Soccer Club as a board member and a past president. And I served about 18 years as the field tech for the Ottumwa High School soccer program. And I'm trying to get back on council just to continue the hard work and the momentum going forward that everybody has gone through. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Niner. Ms. Pope?
Hi, my name is Sandra Pope, and I'm not going to tell you my age. You read it in the paper. Thank you for this invitation. I'm deeply honored for this opportunity to speak to the people of Ottumwa. Not only am I grateful, but I'm humbled to be a part of this historical moment, that I can stand before you and be a voice for the people and feel that may feel that they're not heard, but be one brick of many to help build a bridge that connect our diverse community to our city government. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Matt?
Good evening. My name is Matt Pringle. My most loyal friend and wife, Tori, of over 32 years, is present tonight, as she's always been my #1 fan. We have 3 adult children, 2 of which are married and have blessed us with 7 very grandchildren. Our middle child works full-time and lives here in Ottumwa. I am employed full-time at Indian Hills Community College. I'm also the pastor of Mount Ararat Baptist Church just outside of Centerville. Politically, I'm a conservative. I would certainly vote for a Democrat if I believe that if they were more conservative than their Republican counterpart. As a future member of the City Council, I believe that more than party or affiliation, one should gather accurate information to make the best decision possible, while always keeping in mind the current safety and future prosperity of Ottumwa. As a candidate, I believe the safety and the prosperity in Ottumwa is extremely important. If there is ever a time that I disagree with your beliefs or your opinions, I am not against you. I simply disagree. Our culture, locally and nationally, must develop so that 2 people disagree. They can still remain respectful and civil to one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Carolyn will read the first question.
So the first question is the League of Women Voters question. And this question refers to the Ottumwa 2040 Comprehensive Plan. So our Ottumwa 2040 Comprehensive Plan includes goals, policies, and action items meant to guide the city. So which part of the plan do you believe that you would support most strongly?
Okay, Mr. Hanna, you may begin.
I would strongly go with the walk, having it more paved and bringing more security lights throughout the walk, and maybe even going even further outside of the city limits. That's about it.
Okay. Mr. Hall?
Thank you. The comprehensive plan is a very good plan, and I don't think you can get one part without the other part, and it all kind of works together. But if you got to focus on one area, I believe right now we need to focus on a lot of housing. Ottumwa has a shortage of housing, and you can't have industry if nobody has a place to live. You can't have growth without houses. So I believe that housing is a really good place to start, or a good place to focus on. But like I said, every part of it works good together, and you can't have one part without the other. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, I can't answer that question honestly without knowing how the city government funding is for each category. Like Russ has said, it's all of them run right into another. So with me not being involved with the writing of it or being into the meetings that people are discussing it, I can't give a fair answer for that. But I love the fact that they have a 20-year plan for Ottumwa.
Thank you. Mr. Niner?
Yeah, those plans, I've been involved with those plans before, and they're essentially a funding tool and a guideline for councils and future councils to go by. But if one sticks out more than anything, I mean, they kind of all are in a line, and you kind of pick and choose as the funding and grants and that type of stuff would become available. But housing also with me has to be a big thing, because with more housing will come more jobs, more people to the community, more growth in that aspect. And housing right now is really kind of a tough gig. So if I had to pick anything out of that to work on maybe ahead of something else, other than continue the trail systems and all that stuff, would be housing.
Thank you. Sandra?
As I looked at the comprehensive plan, there's not just one part of the plan that should be supported more than the other. This plan was designed that each process is important to achieve a positive outcome. This is not just one person's vision. This is our city's vision. The comprehensive plan committee is made up of many men and women from this great city, coming together with a united vision that would guide our city's growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pringle?
It is great to have the long-term plans to define intermediate steps on how to accomplish those plans. And obviously there were many hours of strategic thinking to write this plan. And as everyone has said, it is definitely good to have a plan, especially one that goes out 2 decades. Economic development to offer incentives to large industry or large manufacturing companies to attract them to Ottumwa would be good. Once the news travels of employees receiving above average wages to very good wages, hardworking families would be attracted to Ottumwa, and the demand for housing, entertainment, shopping, and restaurants would increase, causing growth. Also, the existing manufacturing industries would be challenged to increase their wages, and this type of capitalism is good for the economy. However, we must somehow, some way encourage work rather than entitlement. There must be a great incentive to work, and there must be a greater incentive to work and earn than to not work and to receive an undeserved handout. Perhaps that is covered.
Thank you, Mr. Pringle.
I'm sorry.
Carol?
So as many have said, this plan looks at the community as a whole, and most of the plans and implementations are interconnected, which our community truly is. When we as a city and a community stop looking at the issues as separate issues and see how they connect, we work to identify the root and better solve problems as a whole. With that being said, I believe we do need to focus on the electric park development. This will bolster economic development through increased tax revenue streams. It'll allow us to focus on how we can better support our Church Street and Main Street businesses. It'll increase the quality of life in Ottumwa. It'll draw people in, and it will add to our housing stock. It capitalizes on perhaps our greatest asset, a river running right through the center of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question.
Okay, so we have 2 questions involving the police, and so I'm going to ask both of them together. So the first question from Edward Wilson is, would you support a citizens police oversight committee? And then Rod Stevens also asked, where do you stand on the shortage of police and fire? So your stance on police and fire, and would you support an oversight committee?
Okay, Mr. Hall, you begin.
So I'll take the first part. The oversight committee is Yeah, we could do that. Like, that's something that I would definitely be willing to look at. We, as a city councilman, as the city, we have to trust in our police chief to do his job. And I think we have a great police chief. I think he's done a wonderful job so far, and he's really doing a great job. So an oversight committee is definitely something that would be a possibility to look at. Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. The second part of that, I've actually talked to Chad Farrington about the police shortage. That's something that was cut by funding. We do need to look at getting the funding back for these positions. The positions weren't actually cut, they were just unfunded. So yes, we do need to look at refunding these positions, putting people in these jobs, and making sure that our city is safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Doug?
I wouldn't be opposed to a committee, but I would like to talk to Chad first, to give me the insight on that, and then look at the budget. Because if we're paying overtime because we're low staffed, then we're in the same situation we was in before we became understaffed. I've talked with the fire department a couple weeks ago, and they was sharing they lost a 6 firemen. Then when I was glancing over the plan that says between 24 and 30, so they have 24 now. They ran into of that plan, whether we agree with that number or not. That's what it says. So it's one of them deals where you get into the budget and figure out what all funds that particular budget, and then weigh the pros and cons from overtime or hiring some of them back.
Okay. Mr. Niner?
Yeah, I also, would entertain the whole Citizens Oversight Committee. It would warrant a good looking at, and it'd be interesting to know if there's other communities doing that. That would be a good way to look at that, and maybe how they work and the structure of that. As far as the firemen and the policemen, I'm a strong believer and always have been all these years that we need to stay fully staffed. And if we're paying overtime, which we are paying a lot of overtime, keeping firemen and policemen away from their families, stuff like that. I think we need to get back up to full staff on our police and fire both.
Thank you. Sandra?
I would agree to an oversight committee as long as it represents the community. And the firemen and the police officers, the shortage, it puts us in jeopardy because they're overworked, underpaid, tired, and they're going out on the job day after day. So an oversight committee would not be a bad idea, so they could look into things, but we have to be able to make sure our community is safe and that the people that are taking care of our community is healthy. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Matt?
Certainly the priority of safety of Ottumwa, but whether it be law enforcement or fire or emergency staff of any kind, would be of the utmost priority. As far as the oversight committee, I guess I would be curious to find out more of what the person asking the question meant. If it's another step of red tape, I don't know if we've got plenty of bureaucracy already, and Chad Farrington is doing a good job. And so I don't know. I'd have to hear more whether or not I'd agree with that or not. As far as the shortage, I'm all for funding whatever needs to get our civil servants the right pay and the right number of servants, and it's very high priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol?
Hi. So I would agree, especially with what Ms. Pope said, that if we do have a citizen police oversight committee, that it would need to be reflective of our community. As Mr. Niner identified, we would want to look into other communities that have these. And there are communities throughout Iowa, which we have had some discussion with while working on the Civil Rights Commission and whether we're going to bring that back. Regarding fully staffing the fire department and the PD, I think, as most have said too, it is important to ensure that our public safety officers do feel safe, stable, and in their employment. And when they are exhausted, it does increase our risk. So I think that we do need to look at that. And I know that there's measures right now being looked at through the city right now. And so I would continue to support those avenues to move forward. Thank you.
Leroy?
I will agree with the panel. We need to look into it and have better staffing for the fire department and the police department. And I think we need to show that we need to have support with them so they can be with their families and friends and have not overtime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another two questions that are similar. So again, I'm going to ask them together. So Tammy Allison asked, what is the single most important issue you believe need to be addressed? And then we also had a question from Christine Payne that talked about how do you see issues connected and what are some ways that you would help resolve them? So if you could speak on what do you think are one of the most important issues, and if you think it needs to be resolved in any way, if you could let us know how you would do that.
Okay. Mr. McIntyre, you begin.
Okay, the first question, without me being in meetings again to know what priorities, what I've heard for the last 20 years is the streets. So I think we need to figure out the funding that goes there. And I know we're doing streets, but we're probably not doing them at the pace as bad as shape as they're in now. So if we don't make it a priority, they're going to continue to get worse. And could you repeat that second question, please?
About resolving any issues that you think may be a problem.
Well, I figure that's one of my strong suits. I'm a people person. So instead of people sending emails or texts or what, I like to talk to them one-on-one. And you always hear, you want to hear both sides of the story. And a lot of what I've learned with being a parent, a coach, and if you take the emotion out of it, then there's one way of settle on that or the other. And that's what I do.
Okay. Mr. Niner?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of the issues that just face, basically City Hall and the city every day, they're all important issues, whether it be housing, our streets, not enough public safety people, it all boils down to funding. So we just need to take a good hard look at all those. Not that they're not doing that now, because I'm sure they are. We just need to take a good hard look at maybe getting a little more streets done. But, everybody knows that to do that, we got to probably give up something else to do that. And it's a juggling act, but, new faces would bring some new ideas, and that's probably what it's going to take to try to get some new ideas and new faces to try to figure out how to better approach some of these issues.
Okay, thank you. Sandra?
I feel affordable housing in our community is growing. We're getting more people into our city, so we need affordable housing, as well as affordable child care and affordable adult care, because some people are taking care of their elderly parents or grandparents. And I would talk to JBS and John Deere. Those are the two biggest companies here. Talk to them about forming a partnership that we could have those affordable child care and affordable adult care put in place. Thank you.
Matt?
I'm not sure what the issues are and what the highlighted issue would be. I do see a lot of help wanted and now hiring signs all throughout the community. And it makes me wonder where our workers are. And I guess I'm kind of concerned about that. But by nature and by profession and technical support there at Indian Hills, I am a troubleshooter. And once I'm able to know what the issue is, we're able to listen to the goods and the bads about an issue and come up with a solution as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Carol?
I would agree too. It's really hard to nail down one issue, especially earlier when I said we're all interconnected. But I will say that, again, my background's in human services, and I think mental health and substance use disorder in this community is very high. We are the #1 county for child abuse and risk factors, neglect risk factors. And I think that when we address issues on mental health and substance use by increasing our quality of life to be able to get doctors and therapists here to stay, then we also reduce our mental health substance use disorder concerns, and we also decrease our crime rates too. That's the quick answer of it. So.
Okay.
Mr. Hannah?
I agree with Mitch on that we need to focus on everything like housing and the roads. And I know it's no quick fix, but maybe we can compromise and try to get things going and getting the streets fixed and more housing. Thank you.
Mr. Hall?
So my answer is actually two: transparency and community. Transparency through the city of, we all want our roads fixed, and sometimes roads are being fixed, but we don't know that they're on the plan to be fixed. So if we can have that transparency and just let our community know where we're at and what we're doing, I think that's a big part of it. And that'll also help with our community, not only knowing what's going on, but also maybe bring a more positive attitude to the city. We have a lot of great things going on, and I've found over the last 3 or 4 months that some people just don't know what's going on. So, and I think if they did know, then they would be a little bit more positive about the outcomes of what's going on in our city. So, transparency and community. Thank you.
Doug, I think you're the last.
Could you, as moderator, please speak up when you're asking a question?
Oh,
And
sure.
ask all of the candidates to please speak louder.
Okay.
Because we're not hearing a lot of Leroy using this mic. Leroy,
Okay.
over a mic closer to you, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Would somebody in the back, if you cannot hear any of the candidates, would you just raise your hand? Because otherwise they're not going to know, they're not getting back to you.
Okay. Okay, next question.
Wait a
so-
minute, Doug, did you get a chance?
I started.
Okay. I'm going to lose my job here.
Oh, I bet you don't.
Okay, so our next question comes from Corwin Williams. How would you try to retain current and future OHS/IHCC graduates to the area?
Mitch, you begin.
Well, I think that, that subject has come up a lot when I was on council before, and it goes back to correlating with the Indian Hills and even Buena Vista University for that matter, and try to, we need to correlate the programs, which a lot of them are out there, correlate the programs with the jobs in the community. Maybe work with Indian Hills. If they have a program that we don't have that business or industry here, we can figure out a way to start an incubator or bring a company here that would employ those people instead of sending them out of computer school to Florida, for example, stuff like that. So I think communication between the city and our colleges would go a long way.
Okay. Sandra?
I believe the businesses here in town should take some of the community, some of the people in our community, and take them up under their wing and mentor some of them so they can see what our great city has to offer and take it a little further, because that's the only way that we can keep them here, is that they have a vision too, and make our vision their vision by helping them along the way. Thank you.
Matt?
It is difficult being that from a technical standpoint, you can graduate from Indian Hills and go to Des Moines and make 25,000 or so more than you can stand here. And so to the young people, that is an incentive to leave. But at the same time, if there were things that folks enjoyed doing here, it's my understanding that Ottumwa is a very big video game capital. If we would have a nationwide video game expo or something held here, it would just be another way to bring the younger crowd to this area. And anyhow, I do believe that the more that we would make it attractive to the young people, the more they'd stay. Thank you.
Kara?
So I would agree that we need more partnership or better partnerships between the city, Indian Hills, and even the high school. There are programs right now that that Indian Hills works with high schools to help them get into some of those industries too. But I think we also need to increase connection with the students to the city. So we have boards and commissions that have positions open or spots open for students. And so when people feel connected, they stay. And I think by making sure we're promoting connections and teaching people how to apply for those commission positions or other types of boards and working with them on what those expectations are, they'll start to feel more integrated in the community. And I think that can help with people staying and retaining here.
Leroy?
I have to agree with the panel, and we do need to keep people here in the city to make it grow and make people prosper, help people prosper to where they do want to stay. Thank you.
Russ?
So everybody up here is basically said the right thing. So we need to make sure that we're paying a good wages. We have the industry from when they graduate from those programs. We need to make sure that high school students are moving on to Indian Hills and not wanting to move out of state to go to college. You're going to lose some of them, but try and keep most of them here. We need to make sure the high school students know about the grants and programs so that they can get into Indian Hills and to move into Buena Vista. And then we need to have those jobs when they graduate from that college here. And also we need to make sure that we have things for them to do here, because if they don't have entertainment like they have in Des Moines, they're not going to stay in Ottumwa to live here. So I think everybody had great points, but yeah, we need to work on that. Thank you.
Doug?
Yes, I'm going to have a different answer because I remember being younger, and most of you guys remember being younger, when we used to have to drive through Pella to get to Des Moines. And what was Pella noted for besides their tulips? That their town was always clean. We always said that. And so it's not so much because there's no way that we can get everybody graduating from college and find a job right here in Ottumwa. It's just not realistic. Could we do a better job at doing that? Yes, I think we could. But we have a culture problem here, and it's not race. It's our attitudes, our hate for one another. And I think once you start changing stuff like that, and one person at a time changing that more people will stay in this community.
Okay.
So the next question I'm going to ask again as a two-part question, because we received two questions regarding ordinances. So we have one question from David McKenzie regarding Chapter 24 of the City Code, deals with nuisances. So in general, this code is not well enforced. So what is your commitment to enforcement of this section of the City Code? But then to piggyback on that, we had a question from Roger Hornbach regarding pit bulls. So he says, we've heard much about a ban on pit bulls, which is really a dangerous animal. Do you feel it is important to keep our citizens of Ottumwa safe by keeping dangerous animals from this town? So it's not just the pit bull ban. So if you could address the nuisance ordinances and also any possible ordinance regarding pit bulls, we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sandra, you get to start.
Okay. I am not familiar with the ordinance very much, but I can address the issues about pit bulls. I had a neighbor to have a dog killed by a pit bull, but I've learned that pit bulls, the owner of the pit bull and how they train those dogs, that's what makes a bad dog. And that could be any dog, not just pit bulls. My little Pomeranian, he go after people. And he could be a danger too, but I feel it's the owner of those dogs that make those dogs bad. I have a neighbor that has 2 of them. They can come outside, they'll come over and sit on my steps. They let my dogs just come up and sniff on them, and they don't try to attack them. But the one that did attack, it was a danger to the community, and it should have been put down, but it wasn't. So it's the owners. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Matt?
One of the worst laws that you can define as a law that you put on a book or a handbook or something and then just never enforce it. So if the nuisance law is there, and I'm not sure even what it says, but if it's there, and at one point folks said that we all need to put it in print and make it happen, then it certainly needs to be enforced. The other thing, as far as pit bulls specifically, just animals in general, I don't care if it's a pit bull or a python or a tiger, the owner ought to certainly be held responsible for anything that animal does. And so, thank you.
Okay. Carol?
So I would agree with the last 2. I don't really know what the chapter 24 nuisance is. I kind of wish Mitch was going right now, so maybe he knew better of that. So it's very hard for me to comment on that, but I would agree with Mr. Pringle down there too about how if it's on the books, then we need to either enforce it or look at it and see why it's not being enforced. And if we're not enforcing it, maybe then it's, I don't know, sorry. But regarding the pit bulls or the dangerous animal ban, I do think that the owners do take responsibility in their animals. And but at the same time, I think that there's some animals that just kind of have that aggressive tendency to them. I'm still learning more about this. I've been sent information on both sides, so I'm still learning about this before I can make a definitive answer. But I'm open to learning more about both sides. Thank you.
Leroy?
Yeah, I have to agree with Mr. Pringle down at the other end, and I think we need to keep it to where the owners of the animal is responsible, and maybe because any animal can attack. So I think we just need to keep it the way it is, of keeping the ordinance the way it is. Thank you.
Okay. Russ?
And so we have many nuisance laws in Ottumwa, grass clippings to junk cars to loudness. So I'm not like everybody else. I don't know exactly what 24 is, but they were put there for a reason and they need to be enforced. And that goes back to having the city staff that is supposed to be enforcing that, or the law enforcement doing that. I've spoke to a few people about that, and grass clipping, grass is a huge one. Like people's grass grow big, and then that goes back to beautification of Ottumwa, and that's why people don't want to buy houses here, because your neighbor's house looks like junk. I don't want to live next to somebody that house looks like junk. So yeah, we need to enforce those. As far as the pit bull ban goes, or the dangerous animal ordinance, I grew up with a cousin that owned pit bulls, and they were the sweetest things in the world until they weren't. And it's bred into the animal, but you can also not have it in the animal. So it's worth looking at. It probably won't get overturned, but it's worth looking at.
Okay. Doug?
Yes, as far as a nuisance law, I think that should be a pretty simple one to solve. You go to the police department and say how many calls you get a week, how come this isn't going on according to the code, or how come that's going on? Is there anything we can do different to solve that? To me, I think that'd be a a quick solution. As far as the pit bulls, I had someone call me a couple weeks ago and gave me an earful for 20 minutes. And so I told her, I said, I need to talk to you on the phone because I was a mailman, and 9 out of 10 pit bulls that came at me wasn't coming to ask me how my day was doing and what I'm doing on the weekend. On the other side of that, I had friends that had pit bulls that were friendly. So I would lean more toward that you can't blame the dog, you blame the owner.
Mitch?
I'll try to do this in a nutshell, I guess. It all comes down to staffing levels, health department, maybe a little better job at maybe getting some committees. I know in the past we've had church groups that's helped clean yards up and stuff like that. But I'm going to dive into the pit bull thing. That was done before I got on council, but I think every council has had to deal with that. And here's my take on that. I always thought, no, I'm not going to vote to reverse that. But as the years went by, here's my thought on that. We got into that ordinance and it really wasn't enforceable because it got into DNA tests, and then it got into who's going to pay the $100 for the DNA test. In the meantime, we got to board the animal. The city has to pay for all that just to wait till the DNA test comes back. In the meantime, everybody has pit bulls, and it's growed and growed and growed to the point now where just take it off the books because you can't control that now. There's so many of them in the city. How would you ever reel that in? And it still gets into, how do you know if that's for sure a real pit bull or not? And so, I'm one that would certainly entertain just get it off the books and hold the owners responsible instead of the animal.
Okay. Thank you.
So our next question comes from Brenda Case. She writes, a large local employer is planning to build apartments for its employees. Should the city pass an ordinance that puts protections in place for employees whose employer is also their landlord? And she also writes, perhaps limiting the rent to a percentage of the person's income.
Was the beginning of the question, did it refer to an organization or a private owner?
A local employer.
It's the employer.
So a large industry or a single person that owns a business?
I
guess that's what I'm
believe the
thinking.
question has to do with a large employer funding the construction of a place where their employees might live.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. And should the city have special?
So should the city pass an ordinance that puts any protections in place for those employees whose employer is also their landlord?
And you get to start, Matt.
Well, thank you very much. I see the concern of the question being that if for some reason they would get fired, they would also lose their housing at the same time. Again, boy, there would have to be so many more details to hear what's going on with that in order to make the best decision. My initial knee-jerk reaction would be that we would not get involved in something like that, but at the same time, I guess I can certainly see the concerns. So at this point, that's the best answer I can give you.
Okay. Carol?
So I would agree a bit about that, it's a very vague question with wanting a very specific answer. So I think what it comes down to also is what's in the rental contract. Is the rental contract, does it specifically say that this is going to, if you lose your employment, you lose your housing? I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it says. I guess also, I'm assuming that it's going to be built in city limits, but it's a tough question. But I think it really comes down to what's exactly in that rental contract. What are the protections built in, again, to that rental contract? And if there aren't any, maybe it's worth a discussion. There is, if we're talking reality, there is financial trafficking happening, and we wouldn't want that to happen with an employer here in Ottumwa. So that's about the best I can give you too.
Thank you, Carol. Leroy?
Yeah, I would have to agree that we need to find out what's going on in the contract. You know, if they do lose their position at the job, they lose their house. So that's it. Thank you.
Russ?
Thank you. So I know what this is referring to, and it goes back to what I said earlier, transparency. So I'll address this in two parts. So the transparency part, we don't know for sure that that's happening. Like there's no public knowledge of this going on in the city of Ottumwa. And the other half of that is there are ordinances in the city or in the state of Iowa that you cannot evict somebody from their property. If you have a contract with them, a rental agreement or whatever, you have to go through the court system to evict somebody. So there already are protections against people. But I don't believe that large corporations should be housing their employees in something that they've funded to build in the first place, because then they control their employee. And I don't believe that's right. So yeah, I believe that, I don't know that the city would get involved in that, but I think the state definitely would get involved in that. Thank you.
Doug?
Well, a knee-jerk answer like we're all given is if a person buys the land and builds a building and they're going by the city code and or state code, then we as a city, as long as they're doing what they're supposed to do, it's not our business to one way or the other. To protect the employee, that is the employee's responsibility. They're going to know the risk renting from somebody just like they would anybody else. So I don't know. I don't really see it a tough question. It's just something that hardly ever comes up as far as the city council. But if they pay for the land and they follow the codes, I think they should be able to rent to whoever they want to.
Okay. Mitch?
Sounds like a serious bunkhouse, I guess. I don't know. To me, that throws up big old red flags, kind of. I think that, obviously we have local and state codes, and the renters have codes, and the landlords have codes, and everybody has codes. But that looks to me like something maybe that we want to have a conversation as far as our planning and zoning of our city and our strategic planning and zoning of our city, and what we want in our city and what we don't want in our city, maybe, if that makes any sense. Maybe that is a conversation the city would want to have with a extremely good attorney to see what our codes say about construction like that. And certainly the city would want to stay out of any kind of protection like that because they already have protection under the codes. But it raises a big flag to me about whether something like that would be a viable situation in our city, maybe, if that makes sense, I guess. Thank you.
Sandra?
I agree with the panel. That is a control issue. I think it would be with the employer and its employees, and where the council would step in. I don't see where we would fit in. But we will have to push the buck a little bit further to find out more information for that business to get the property to build something like that. What kind of taxes would they have? We would need a little bit more information about the plans for the land. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, our next question is from Mark Rowe. He writes, being a council person demands that you become the face of the community at times. This requires a professional demeanor and positive attitude. Do you feel as though you can be a positive representative for the city and the staff?
Is it me?
Yes, Kara.
Okay. So I believe I am a positive person. I am very involved in the community right now as it is, and I believe in Ottumwa. I think one of the biggest things that we have going against us is that there's so much negativity out there, and I want to change that. I try to do that in the boards and committees that I'm on, and I I work for the I work with volunteers who advocate for their time for children that are involved in the juvenile court system. And you have to be positive in that situation because you're working in some pretty intense situations. And if I can be positive in that situation, I feel like I can be positive in any situation, and I can uplift people, and I can have difficult conversations when it's not the best, but in a way that is appropriate and beneficial. Thank you.
Leroy?
I feel like I am a positive person. I help with the Alzheimer's walk every year. I'm involved in my church. And so I think we need to maybe bring some stuff in to keep entertainment for everybody, all the citizens of Ottumwa. Thank you.
Russ?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Rowe. So all throughout my grade school, high school, college, and life, I've been told that I'm outgoing, positive person. I make friends everywhere I go. I'm always happy to hear from people. I'm always happy to talk to people. My email is always open. My Facebook is always open for people to comment and talk to me. And if you see me on the street, I'm always willing to have a conversation with you. Sometimes it draws on a little longer than most people want it to. You can ask a few people in the room. But yeah, I think as a city council person, yeah, I could put out there a very positive vibe. I'm 99% of the time always energetic. Sometimes days get a little long, but yeah, I think it's an important thing for the council person that you choose to be a representative of your community and go out there and put a positive face on our community, because you never know who's in town.
Doug?
Yes, I wake up every morning and leave my house with my glass half full. And I make it part of my job every day to the people that think their glass is half empty, to turn that around and make their glass half full. I've showed that for many years as a football coach. I've showed it for many years at officiating funerals, and also giving that American flag to the next of kin to let people know that I am a people person. And that's what God put me on this earth to do. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm running for city council, is because of my positivity.
Mitch?
That question was probably directed toward me, I guess. I don't know what else to say. I'm just going to be honest. Sometimes I've been known, obviously, to be colorful, but sometimes that's not a bad thing, because I'm passionate about what I do, whether it's working on a car, whether it's painting it Vermeer, no matter what it is, passion weighs in on a lot of that. And every single person up here is different. Everybody's going to give people different approaches on how they answer questions and stuff. And just because sometimes I'm colorful and maybe get wound up a little bit sometimes, doesn't mean I'm not enthusiastic and positive and all that. So, yeah, I mean, here I am today, and I'm taking another stab at it, I guess. Thank you.
Sandra?
Well, for number one, it takes too much energy to be negative. So I wake up every morning and I have to put on that positive face. I've been a preschool teacher I just recently retired last October. Preschool teacher for 23 years. My passion was there. And I had to go in with a smile every day for those children. Some of them didn't come from good homes, but I went in there every day with a smile on my face, no matter how bad I felt. So I just believe I can't give out that negative energy. My name means helper of mankind. So,
All right.
thank you.
Matt?
As I said, I'm the pastor of Mount Ararat Baptist Church, so therefore I'm first an ambassador of the Lord Jesus Christ, and that supersedes everything in my life. Therefore, to be a positive face for anything that falls under that umbrella, I don't see that would be an issue. You can ask my wife. She says that probably one of the last things I'll probably ever say is, it's going to be okay. And so I am hardly ever discouraged at the least, and never depressed. I would see myself as an optimistic realist. And yes, I would be honored to be a part of Ottumwa's City Council.
All right, so our next question comes from Jason Weller, and he asks, are you for more industry and new business or another hotel?
Oh, gosh. Leroy?
I'm for having more businesses in the city because it helps bring people into the city and keeps people here while they are here and brings more revenue. And that's, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Russ?
So why not both? Why can't we have a hotel and industry? We need jobs. We need good paying jobs. And the hotel will bring jobs. I don't know if they're good paying jobs. I'm assuming they're going to be. I know that the restaurant is an upscale restaurant, so that's definitely going to pay more money. And that's an industry that definitely needs a boost. Our fast food industry needs a boost in pay wages. So we need both. We need the hotel, but we also need more industry. So it's not one or the other for me. It's both. So thank you.
Doug?
Yeah, I kind of took that as really two separate questions. And neither one, I suppose you get to that question as well, because it'd be nice to have both. But until you sit with the figures, it'd be nice for me to have a $50,000 Corvette, but it's not in my budget to have a $50,000 Corvette, you know? So I definitely think it's something at the table, but I take that as really two different questions.
Okay. Mitch?
Yeah, obviously we all want different jobs, different livable wage jobs, but, having said that, the dollar amount that the city is giving the hotel and the land and stuff, I don't know what kind of industry you could get for that amount of money. It's going to take considerably more money than that. But I'll address the hotel issue. Being on council before, number one, giving them land, up to $120,000 to $2.4 million total in 20 years. I think that's completely wrong. If the hotel wants to build, that's fine. If you want to give them land, I guess, give them the ball field land, not the parking lot. I don't think we should give them any money. And I can tell you this, and I hope everybody remembers me saying this, whether I make it past all this or not. The hotel is not going to affect the bottom line of Bridgeview. It's not. It's just not. Thank you.
Okay. Sandra?
I believe that right now, to bring more income into our great city that's growing every day, we have new people coming into our city. Bringing in more jobs, yes, it's needed. How all the dollar figures that I have no clue how they got there, I would look into. But I just think bringing the revenue to our city would be a great thing. Thank you.
Matt?
To just try to answer the question as it's stated, I guess we would have to go back to one or the other, as the person asking the question said, as they're wanting A or B, so to speak. And I guess you got to go back to what's going to give more revenue, what's going to cause more expenses, and what's going to create more jobs. And so if he wants us, or she wants us, to choose one way or the other, then that's the kind of things that would have to come to the table first.
Okay. Carol?
So I too had the initial thought, why not both? Like Russ said, I think that both are important. And I think that and I guess I'm going to disagree with Mr. Niner. I think that a hotel will affect the bottom line at Bridgeview. And I hope I'm right. So, but I think industry is also important too. So like Russ said, why not both? Why can't we have both in Ottumwa? Why can't we grow Ottumwa through both avenues? That's all I got. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a question from John Fenner, and it's very simple. Asks, why do you want to run for city council?
Russ, you get first whack at that.
All right. I've wanted to run for city council for a while, but being an over-the-road truck driver, it never afforded me the opportunity because I was always gone. I actually took a local driving job at the same time that Skip Stevens was retiring. And I felt it was almost kismet. Like, it's too perfect. So I put my name in for that one and stuff. And the more I've talked to people, the more I've talked to not just citizens, but the people that work for the city hall and the people that work for the city, the more I fall in love with this town. And the more I learn about it, the more I want to be a part of that, the more I want to help us grow, and the more I want to help keep our children here and make sure that they have a place to live and a place to work and that they can love the community like I do. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Doug?
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier is I want to start working individually or with groups with the culture, because there's so much negativity in this city now. And if you change a culture, all the ideas for the next 20 years or all the ideas each one of you guys could have out there, it will automatically happen if you change the culture. It's going to take a while, and it's going to take every one of us that are interested in city government to make it happen, but it can happen.
Okay. Mitch?
It's pretty simple, just to make Ottumwa a better place. I mean, me and my wife live here, obviously. My kids are here. My grandkids are here. You know, and I think we all want to make Ottumwa a better place. And I'm one that's a true believer, because when I was on council before, it happened from time to time in between terms. It's not always a bad thing to have a whole bunch of different opinions or a different group of people from different ways of life and avenues of life. I think it brings a rounder group together to try to solve a lot of these issues. And, you know, I just want to continue to serve and make Ottumwa a better place.
Sandra?
Why am I running? It is, I spoke with my sister about this 2 years ago, about coming back from Toledo, Ohio, and coming here and running for city council. It took 2 years for me to get pushed into this, but I believe that I can bring to the table we talk about our diversity here, but we don't look it. I want to make the city council look the part of our diverse community. Thank you.
Matt?
For the longest time in my circles, it sure seems like Christians have said, you know, just let the politics go the way it's going, and, you know, just stay in the church house and forget about politics. And I guess I've always taught and preached to both my family and to the church that we need to be informed and engaged. And as an American, I guess it's time for me to not only be informed, but to get engaged. And it's time to live what I preach. Thank you.
Okay. Carol?
So I am a transplant to Ottumwa, but when I moved to Ottumwa, I found a community. I found a place that I called home, and I found a place that my daughter only has known as her home. Through my involvement in Ottumwa, I have seen how amazing Ottumwa is. I have seen the culture of it that is here in Ottumwa, and I am running because I want to truly help Ottumwa become, this may sound cliche, but one Ottumwa. I want like Sandra said, I want not only people at the table, but I want their voices heard and uplifted. And I want Ottumwa to be even more positive and continue to move forward. Thank you.
Leroy?
I'm running because I think Ottumwa is a great place to live and a good community to be a part of. I think I can help make it grow and be more positive for others to maybe follow suit on the other communities to follow suit. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have some questions from Imar Hernandez. So, and two of his first questions were similar, so I'm just gonna put them together. So his first question was, what are your thoughts on reviving our neighborhoods? And he also asked, what are your thoughts on supporting Main Street Ottumwa and reviving Church Street? So.
Doug, you get the honors.
Good. Yeah, threw me a curveball. No, my wife happens to have a business downtown, and they've done a really good job. If I was on the council, I probably would have asked more questions before the contractors actually started working, because there was some stuff that they was warned ahead of time or advised ahead of time and didn't do, which automatically turns that into a negative. So me being the type of guy I am, I shared with my wife at one time, if we was on Church Street and had a business, we would probably be bummed out that downtown is getting fixed up and Church Street isn't. I wasn't involved in none of that, neither was my wife. We just happened to have a business downtown when they did it. But I think more people need to get out and see what's downtown, because all you hear is negativity, but they don't go downtown to actually see how many businesses are down there. So that's my view.
Okay. Mitch?
Yeah, I mean, I think every community obviously has a Main Street program, and, you know, obviously we need to support, you know, the Main Street program. But it come up one other time about creating, or I asked the question, why can't we include Church Street in the Main Street from downtown? And the answer I got, and I don't know if it's still true today, was that when it's across a river like that, it's far enough away, it would have to have its own separate Main Street director and separate funding. And that was always an issue. I know when I was on council, a lot of us asked that same question, and it all come down to how would we do that and how would we fund that? I don't know if that's still true today, if they'd have to have their own Main Street director for over there and their own funding source. But, you know, once again, it gets into funding but it should happen. I mean, Church Street is just as equal as downtown. So, you know, I think we need to take a hard look at that. And since we got the downtown headed in the right direction and it looks good and all that, maybe we can turn our focus a little bit toward the other side of the river. Thank you.
Okay. Sandra?
Reviving Main Street, reviving the neighborhood, reviving Church Street. The community is growing. It needs to reflect that. And the diversity of the city is growing. Yeah. It needs to reflect that. We need to take a step forward and evaluate those things. Look at how those businesses. I went to International Day. That was one of the best days I had in a long time. I didn't stop dancing, but it was so much there. Our city has so much, and I need Main Street and Church Street to reflect that in businesses. Thank you.
Matt?
Any type of improvement of high trafficked areas would obviously be good. It would be a question of funding as far as, is it coming from the general fund of the city? Is it coming from grants that we could be given or community partnerships with other entities? Where's all this funding coming from? And, but yeah, to make not only just a facelift, but actually go in a little bit deeper into those buildings and actually aid a little bit in the electrical and the plumbing and various things and the well upkeep that'll make the building last longer, not just the face of it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Carol?
So I honestly, yes, I think that what Main Street has done is amazing. I mean, they just won an award. And so what I think that's absolutely amazing. I do think that we need to focus on revitalizing our neighborhoods and also looking to Church Street. But it's not just about giving it a facelift. It's also about, like Matt said, helping the businesses too. So looking at other communities like West Liberty that have thriving ethnic businesses, and what are they doing to help them thrive? And how can we help our ethnic businesses thrive? How can we help our other businesses thrive? How can we bring more into those empty buildings too? And then revitalizing our neighborhoods too. It's not just about the council, but it's also about the community. I know there's church groups out there helping with neighborhoods too. And how can we get all those groups together and maybe form one group to help with that stuff too? So it also falls back on the community, and how can the city council or the city in general help organize that and push that forward? Thank you.
Leroy?
I agree. The downtown looks amazing, and I'd like to see Church Street look just as amazing. And I believe we can do that by bringing more businesses and people downtown or to Church Street. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Russ?
So that's a great question. And I kind of realized as everybody was talking that I hope everybody else is realizing that this all goes full circle. So downtown being revitalized, we need to get Church Street revitalized. The neighborhoods get revitalized, brings more industry, brings more tourism, brings more dollars, brings more street repairs. It's all one big circle. So yes, we need to tie Main Street into Church Street. We need to get funding to redo Church Street. We need to do all of this work, and it is all in the 2040 plan. And it is all things that we need to do. Mm-hmm. So we need 3 council people up here that are willing to work on the 2040 comprehensive plan, move the city forward, and yes, revitalize our Church Street. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go back to another question from Brenda Case. She writes, recently a landmark historic building was scheduled for demolition without benefit of learning what state and federal incentives are available for historic preservation. So how would you assure that the Historic Preservation Commission has the opportunity to share that wisdom prior to property owners making a decision that may destroy or irreparably harm a historic property?
Okay, this will be our last question, and then you will all make your closing statement. So, Mitch, you begin answering this last question.
I guess I'll say this, and maybe it's wrong, maybe it isn't. The Historic Preservation Commission, I think, number one, a private owner owns it. I guess it's their right to do whatever they want with the building. That's first and foremost. But having said that, my grandmother was involved with the Wapello County Fair, Mabel Hollenbeck. She was a teacher at Franklin Elementary. Hollenbeck Hall at the Wapello County Fairgrounds is covered under that historic preservation deal. But it only covers how you fix the building. There's no clauses in there that says they can't tear the building down. It only governs how you fix the building and the avenue that you go to make it look like it did at the 4 County Fair for her building, for example. And I don't know if that's true on that or not, but it only covers the fixing of it, not tearing it down.
Sandra?
Yes, I think that the historical things that's going on in this town is valuable. And for that to happen because someone purchased that property and they elected to do with the property that they wanted to. It's just like me owning my home and somebody coming trying to tell me, no, you can't do any renovations. But we need to protect the historical part of Ottumwa. We do. We need to find a way to work that out with these outside people coming in, buying property and doing with it what they may. We need to protect that. So to some extent, thank you.
Matt?
Our history is getting rewritten. Our American history is getting rewritten every day through our school curriculums and things, and I am certainly against that. As far as this piece of property that I'm not fully aware of, if it is declared historic, then it should be preserved beyond any of our living years. If it is not declared historic, then it should be up to the private owner to do with it as he wishes.
Okay. Carol?
So actually, I sit on the Historic Preservation Commission. So thank you for this question. So a couple of things. I guess I heard the question as what would I do to better ensure that people, business owners, homeowners, understand the grants and things that are out there for them. So as the Historic Preservation Commission, one of the things that we are working on is a strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, we're hoping to have a plan that addresses how can we make people more aware of the grants that are available if your house is listed. And if it's not listed or your building isn't listed, how can we help you understand that process and get it listed? And then also, we want to talk with business owners and community members about that too. We've held neighborhood meetings, different things like that too. But I think it also falls on the city too, to ensure that when they are working with businesses or that they are passing that information along too. So how you just bought a historic building, let me provide that information to you on how to register it or how to get those grants. Thank you.
Okay. Leroy?
I have to agree with Carol that we need to have people ask how to get grants and loans and stuff to keep our historic buildings historic. Because I live in an older home, and I enjoy all the woodworking and stuff and the history behind everything. Thank you.
Russ?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but it really goes back to transparency. And I'm glad to hear that from Kara that they're working on a plan with the society to get more of those places. My childhood home got tore down earlier this year. It was 210 years old, but it was neglected for the last 45 years. So the people that owned it decided it was time for it to be tore down. As a council member, you can't tell them no. That's their property. They do what they want with it. The building that's being spoken about, it's a travesty that it's gone the way it's gone. And it should have been caught earlier, but it wasn't. And so that's not something that the council would need to step in on, but it's something that goes back to transparency. We have to know what's going on with those buildings. And I'm so glad to hear from Kara that that's being addressed. Thank you.
Doug?
Me as an individual person, I didn't like history in school, and I absolutely love it now. So I hate to see when old buildings like that are tore down. But on the other side of that, if it was auctioned off and the auctioneer had no code that here's what you have to do with it if you buy it, or here's what you can't do, and they follow the laws of the land, then they have a right to do what they want to once they purchase it.
Okay. In the interest of time, we're going to close this portion of our forum tonight. And Sandra, you're the next up. So if you would like to make your closing statement.
Yes. I want the work that I do for City Council to speak for me. Let it be a torch that I may pass on to others to run with for generations to come. I want to be that beacon, that light that lights up the next generation. Thank you.
Matt?
I would certainly like to thank Jean Dell and the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum. This is exactly what the public needed in order to get to know each candidate a little better. Hopefully, a forum like this has also given the voter a greater confidence in their candidate. I would also like to thank Republican Chair Trudy Cavanis for supporting me as a Republican candidate. Also, a sincere thank you to Rod Stevens, Rick Bick, and Corwin Williams for their support in various ways. Now to the residents of Ottumwa, time is our most valuable commodity. Thank you very much for spending your time here tonight. But please be sure and vote. Read about, listen to, and study each candidate and vote for the ones that best reflect your desire for the future of Ottumwa. Every single one of your votes really do matter. Please go vote.
Thank you. Carol?
This council needs people who see the good in the community, who are willing to listen to the needs of the community and find solutions without denigrating the community or the people. I am that person. I have the experience necessary to represent all Ottumwans in a professional, patient, and thorough manner. I am dedicated and have the skill set that is needed to understand an issue from all sides and all viewpoints. I am an advocate who has proven to bring people of all backgrounds to the table and ensure their voices are heard and uplifted. My dedication to the community shows that I'm a hard worker, that I believe in the good of our community, and I am here for the ongoing betterment of Ottumwa. Again, it shows that council title or not, I am devoted to working hard for our community and will continue to do so. With your support on October 5th and again on November 2nd, I will continue the momentum, listen to the needs of Ottumwa, and will work to truly become one Ottumwa. Thank you.
Thank you. Leroy?
I'll just have a real short one. I'd just like to thank everybody for attending tonight, and thank you for the difficult questions, but thank you.
You're welcome. Russ?
Thank you for everybody for being here, everybody that's watching on YouTube. Thank you for the League of Women Voters for bringing us here and allowing us to speak to the community. I hope to work for the citizens of Ottumwa the next 4 years, and that's really what this is. This is a job interview. We're interviewing you for the job of a city council person. And I hope that we've all impressed you here today. And if you want to learn more about me, you can go on Facebook to Russ Hall, Iowa. You can like my Facebook page. I publish things on there quite frequently. And I also have an email link on there. If you have any questions, email me. You can also message me through that. If you have any questions, you can message me through that and ask me those questions. If I don't know the answer, and this goes for if I'm elected, if I don't know the answer, I will find the answer for you. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Doug?
Yes, I want to thank everybody who took part on making this happen tonight. I really want to thank the people that came here in person and those that are watching online somewhere. Those of you that didn't know me before, hopefully you know me a little bit better now. I officiated a funeral one time, and this is probably the best way to describe who I really am. And I sat in the hearse with Will Reese, and I said, you know, I'm baffled that people will ask me to officiate their funeral. And he says, you know why they ask you? And I said, I don't have a clue. He says, because you're real. And people love real. My dad was 20 years Air Force, and we lived in all different kinds of states, and I went to 12 different elementary schools. So I can get along with every walk of life, no matter where they live, where they haven't lived, where they want to live. And I believe that's my real strong suit for running for council. Thank you.
Mr. Niner, you get to close us out.
I'd like to also thank the league for having this once again. And, you know, folks, it's pretty simple with me. You know, I guess I'm somebody you love to hate, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, you don't necessarily have to like me to vote for me. I've got a proven track record of digging in. I've been on the inside looking out. I know the processes. I know all that stuff. I can hit the ground running. You know, I answer my phone. A lot of them don't. You know, I get out in the community. You know, if somebody wants to talk to me, I run over to their neighborhood and talk to them. And I'd appreciate your vote in the upcoming election. Thank you.
Thank you all for appearing before the people are going to be casting ballots, we hope, on next Tuesday, October 5th. We will be reducing the number of candidates. By your votes, you will be choosing who will be facing the voters on November 2nd. Thank you for participating in our effort to find good leaders for Ottumwa. These folks who are candidates will be leaving, and then within about 2 seconds, the mayoral candidates will be joining us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know what you meant by 2 minutes. Yeah. I think it will probably take time. Good job. Oh, hey, hi. Right. They only have. Okay. How are you? Okay. I'm gonna make a note. We'll get a sign because. Yeah.
You're supposed to be. J.R.
Oh, that's a Google.
I guess it really didn't matter, but I just.
Yeah, it is supposed to be alphabetical.
You're B, he's J, they're alphabetical.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, you're alphabetical. Thank you for pointing out our lack of knowledge of the alphabet.
Do we have many questions?
Actually, you know
There's only
what?
3 of us. That means
It worked out
more
really well
questions.
because I was able to ask everybody's question except for like the people who had written multiple ones. So it worked out really, really well. So then I'm going to look for the mayor only questions now.
And do them first.
Yes.
Yeah, do those first.
That's Terry O'Hara's sister down there. That's not Terry O'Hara. I thought it was. She looks
Oh,
like
okay.
her. There's three of them. Trudy,
Yeah, Trudy and
Terry, and then her.
Yeah.
She looks a lot like Terry.
I think our audience thinned out a little bit.
Yeah, a little.
A little bit.
Yeah, they did. I can see why they have to time limit it or you can't
Okay.
too many questions when you got 9 people.
Revision of how to do a tournament, okay.
Is it 7:30 or 8:30?
It's 7:35.
Okay. It's been a while since I've sat in these chairs. I forgot how loose they are.
I don't have any animosity. Whoever gets this job, I would be more than happy to support whatever they end up doing. I'm just glad there's people wanting to run.
Yeah.
I think we're all here to try and make a tough a better place. Or at least that's why I'm in this.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you, we have
Got a lot of
probably plenty
potential,
of
but there's still a lot of
questions.
things that need to be done.
But yeah, I think we have, let's see.
It is, it is. And
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that the public doesn't.
yeah,
always
and
get
so,
that.
you know, some of the questions were really just for
Decisions
city
based on
council.
facts.
Yeah, and some I'm just kind of reviving because they're, you know,
I wonder if it matters which mic.
yeah, I was
Are
gonna ask.
are they all on? I've got two.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll ask, I was gonna ask it again.
Yeah, I don't know which
Yeah.
one.
So
Here.
some of them I asked again because they are kind
I
of
don't know
cool.
either.
So, but then, yeah. Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
okay, I think I think we can do it within an hour. We run out of questions. Because we have like backup questions, because some people wrote multiple, but I'm gonna focus on.
I don't know if they're all turned on or.
One, because some people wrote
I don't
like 3 or 4, and combine, yeah. Yeah, I'll combine, yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna go down and ask them.
Yeah. Were you and your wife from?
I
was born and raised.
Like, do you have a timer on your phone? The clock? Because Sarah has mine. Well, so you can see your.
Mine doesn't stay on. I don't know how to keep it on.
Okay, can you just tap it when it goes off?
Well,
Like, if it goes off, can you just tap it?
it doesn't matter, they're all turned on, so
I think when
if you'd rather have this one, you can have it.
Well, I'm,
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think when we get to like.
That's one place I'd like to see before I get buried, and be Hawaii. I'd like to go to Hawaii. It's beautiful. That's what I hear. Yeah.
yes, I'll do that.
Okay, do you want to start?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I'm going to have them make their opening statement.
Okay, do you want me to just say we're going to begin?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, we're going to begin we're going to begin with the mayoral section of our program tonight. So we have our 3 candidates for mayor, and they will be giving their opening statements. So Jean, did you have anything you wanted to explain? Okay. All
I'm
right,
pretty
thank
sure
you.
they can remember the rules, so we'll find out. Again, they are seated alphabetically, so the first one delivering their opening statement will be Rick Bick.
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Rick Bick and I pastor New Life Center here in town. I'm also the police chaplain. I'm the president of the board of Heartland Pregnancy Center, and I do a lot of other things. I have a Bachelor of Arts from Life Bible College. I have a Master of Arts in Strategic Leadership from Life Pacific University. I'm here running for mayor because I think, as we've said here, we all have a desire to make Ottumwa better. We have visions and we see things that we can do. My first impression of Ottumwa when we came here was the slogan, City of Bridges, River of Opportunity. And I thought, here we have, if you can't run with that, you can't run with anything. And so with the bridges, I always think that we can bridge the multicultural gap that we have here. And the river, we have opportunities with the industrial park, Indian Hills, and all the other things here. We have all sorts of things to do to make Ottumwa a better and prettier place. And so thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, good evening. I'm Rick Johnson, and I'm 69 years young. And for the last 16 and a half years, I've been the CEO at River Hills Community Health Center in Ottumwa. And before that, I worked for the Iowa Department of Human Services for almost 30 years in various roles as a social worker, supervisor, county director, and then lastly, an area administrator. So I feel like I have the administrative skills and the leadership skills to lead our community if I'm fortunate enough to be hired or selected or voted in as your new mayor. I also have been fortunate enough to sit on the city council for a short period of time. I was selected to take Skip Stevens' term until the general election in November. And I've been really impressed with the city council, the mayor, the city administrator. They're all very dedicated people that really want to make Ottumwa a better community, which is what I've always tried to do all the years that I've been a professional administrator. So Ottumwa is a great community and has a lot of potential, and that's one of the reasons I want to continue to try and serve our community in a capacity after I retire this fall.
Okay, Mr. LaPointe?
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. I would also like to thank those who are in attendance here today, and I also want to thank those who are watching at home. It's very important that we learn who the candidates are and what they stand for. Again, my name, for those who may not know me, is Robert LaPointe. I'm 59 years old. I'd like to tell people I'm 19, but they never believe me. But I'm married and I have one daughter. I've attended Indian Hills Community College. I've worked several positions at CRST International, which is a Cedar Rapids, Iowa trucking firm. Started off as a driver and worked my way through several different parts of the company. I was a lead driver over the road. I became a safety trainer. I then later became an instructor at the CRST truck driving program at Kirkwood Community College. and I ended my career at CRST in the operations department. I'm currently the president of the St. Patrick's Catholic Church Parish Council. I've been a past board member of the Parks Advisory Board, as well as I was chairman of the Ottumwa Transit Board before it was dissolved. And I can't leave this out, I'm currently a cast member at Mayhem Haunted House here in town.
Thank you. We will now begin with questions.
So our first question is the lead question. So our Ottumwa 2040 comprehensive plan includes goals, policies, and action items meant to guide the city. Which part of the plan do you believe the mayor should support most strongly?
We will begin with Rick Johnson.
I have reviewed the city's 2040 comprehensive plan, and I think, as it had been stated earlier tonight, all the different facets of that plan are extremely important, and they're all interconnected. Not only the housing issue, but the quality of life and community character, the growth, both economic and job-wise, and also celebrating our diversity. Probably for me, the biggest priority for me if I get elected as mayor is to work with the city administrator and the city council and the other organizations that can have some real impact on economic development for Ottumwa. If we don't have economic development and get good paying jobs with good benefits, our town is not going to grow. So for me, it's economic development would be probably my biggest priority.
Okay. Mr. LaPointe?
I've looked at the plan. In fact, I carry it with me everywhere I go. And if people have asked the question, what's in this plan? I bring it up and I show it to them. A lot of times we have these plans, and I'm sure if you scour these hallways, you can go into an office and see a lot of plans, just like this one, that are just sitting and we're not doing anything with it. So as mayor, I would work with the council to see to it that this plan doesn't necessarily draw dust. Being from the Parks Department, I guess if there's one area that I would really concentrate on, it would be things with Greater Ottumwa Park and the rest of the park system.
Mr. Bick?
Yes, that comprehensive plan is unique in that it covers so many things, and I've read it several times and spent several hours in it. It covers so many different aspects of the community, and I'm very, very awed at how much energy and effort went into it and how it covers so many different areas. So economic development and all that is all a good thing, but my tenor spot is, when I first came here, I heard a lot of negative remarks about certain ethnic groups in this community, and it really bothered me. And so when I got to the section on community character, I thought that's a huge move for this community to move from the negative about people to a positive, and where they said they want to invest in minorities, they want to make Ottumwa a livable for all and celebrate diversity and treat everyone fair and justly in the community. So I want to see a nice a community of, as my slogan is, unity in the community, that we all work together again.
Okay.
So our next question is from Amy Phillips. She writes, as a mayoral candidate, how will you work towards ensuring affordable housing is being built to attract and encourage individuals to live here in Ottumwa?
You may begin, Mr. LaPointe.
That's a question. The city has long been looking for housing, and where the St. Joe Hospital used to stand demonstrates that the city has been looking for housing. I think that was going to be one project. We just need to look at different options, for lack of a better thing to say, and see if we can encourage a housing developer to come in. It was mentioned earlier about one of our industries wanting to build housing. We need to look into that. That's the first I heard of that, but we need to look at that to see how we can make that into a benefit for us. for the city.
Mr. Bick?
Yes, housing is a huge issue, and when I look at it, the housing in our community, I look at the age. We call it the age of the inventory, and there's a lot of older homes, that need help, and we do need newer homes. And as I looked at St. Joe's up there, that's an excellent place to build some housing. And what we need to do is the city is legally take it back and develop it. Make it a subdivision, but not give it to a general contractor. Sell the lots to, like here, the little guy contractors in that, and give everybody an opportunity to make some money, or somebody wants to build a spec house, build a home there, but have housing rules or conformity that you can't just build anything there, but some control. And then look for other opportunities in the area, landing wise, that we can do and develop subdivisions.
Mr. Johnson?
I think it's very important that when you look at the housing in Ottumwa, we're very fortunate that we have, I think, pretty adequate low-income housing, but we really have a shortage for middle-income and higher-income housing. I think we need to look at different grant opportunities, and also how can we work with contractors to help put in the subdivision and the infrastructure. That's really where a lot of the cost is when you develop a new neighborhood, is putting in all the infrastructure expense. And if there's a way that the city can help with some of that to encourage new building, that needs to be looked at. And I also think there's other funding that you can get through HUD and other housing organizations that could help with additional housing in Ottumwa. But housing is a huge priority.
Okay, thank you. So John Fenner asks, what is your vision of how to grow Ottumwa?
Mr. Bick, you may begin.
What was the question? Vision of how to grow Ottumwa?
Your vision on how to grow Ottumwa.
Well, first of all, I think that we need to just, get our people excited about Ottumwa again. We talk about economic growth and bring in new businesses here, but I'm going to look at it from this angle. Everywhere I go, I see now hiring, sign-on bonus. I don't know how we're going to get a company to come in here when they look at that. I, as an executive, would come in here and look at that and say, we have a worker shortage. I mean, there's no workers here because there's jobs everywhere. So somewhere we're going to have to train people to go to work again and get them excited about Ottumwa, change it from the negative to the positive, that Ottumwa is a place to build and grow in and get excited. When we get that going, then we're going to get companies interested in coming here again.
Okay. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I do think it's going to be important that we continue to advance Ottumwa in a lot of different areas. In order for new industry and business to come to our community, we're going to have to make sure that we have quality of life supports that people want when they look at a community to live in. We're going to have to make sure that our streets and our infrastructure are well designed and well developed. And I think, we need to continue to go after new industry that supports the kind of jobs that we currently are educating our younger people for, but they're being exported out of state because those jobs don't exist in Iowa, like robotics and lasers. A lot of our college graduates from Indian Hills are being sucked up and sent out of state for those jobs because there's no jobs like that in Ottumwa or Iowa. And we really need to try and develop those businesses in those streams of work so we can keep from exporting all of our young people.
Okay. Mr. LaPointe?
We are unique that we have the same problem that many other communities have, and that's the help wanted signs out on the front windows of nearly every business. That is a nationwide problem. We need to work to have something if we're talking industry that their employees can do. And I propose soliciting and looking for something like a family entertainment center, amongst other items. We also, instead of looking for outside industry, let's work with our current industry and our current business to see how we can help them expand. There's a lot of things that the city council city staff, city administrator can work on to increase the visible that Ottumwa is a great place, and we have differences, but we work on those differences.
So Brenda Case writes the next question. How important is the mayor's public image, and what characteristics do you possess that would fit that role?
Okay, we will begin with Mr. Johnson.
I think it's very important that the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city, and therefore they are in a lot of ways the face of the city. So you definitely need to be somebody that can be supportive and advocate strongly for your community. I feel like I've done a good job of that in my 46-year career, not only in Ottumwa, but in other communities that I served with the state of Iowa. I think you really have to be proactive and positive. And as somebody said earlier this evening, the glass always needs to be half full instead of half empty. We do have a lot of negativity in Ottumwa, and I think that is starting to change for the better. But I think as the face of the city, you really need to be very proactive and positive, especially when you're talking to new industry and new people who are looking at coming to our community.
Mr. LaPointe.
I agree. The mayor is the center person of the community. He's the ambassador. He is should be the public's first go-to if they have a problem, so he can assist in solving different problems. I've had experience working with the public when I was on the two boards, the Parks Advisory Board and the Transit Board. You have to be an individual who will listen to people. You don't care whether they agree with you or they disagree with you. I don't think people are necessarily negative because they have a different opinion than what the city may want to do or what others may want to do. You always have to remember, no matter what you do, if you're the mayor, city council, you're going to alienate and make somebody mad if you don't agree with them. And you'll never get everybody to agree because people have different opinions.
Mr. Bick.
Yes, I agree with the other Rick here that the mayor is the CEO and he's the face of the community, and he needs to be a concerned face, a happy face, and a positive face for the future. I think the mayor needs to see lemonade, not lemons. And with that as we look at the community, that he hears and listens to the community. And my background is with people for 50 years and being a listener and understanding people and coming to being able to listen and hear what people are really saying and bring a positive and encouraging voice. And I think the mayor needs to be always uplifting and encouraging and seeing the good things, always speaking of the future and the betterment of the city.
So we have a question from Imar Hernandez. And so he writes, Ottumwa is now more diverse than ever. We just had two very successful events that will be permanent, the Viva Ottumwa Festival and the O Pride Festival. How do you plan to support these and other events that celebrate diversity?
Okay, we will begin with Mr. LaPointe.
I attended the festival in Ottumwa Park when it was held. I thought it was a wonderful time, and I look forward to attending again. I did not attend the other festival because I didn't know about it. I don't know how it slipped through my radar, but these events, I think there was another one this past summer. Wasn't it the Martin Luther King holiday event that was at Bridgeview? These events bring us together. We have a lot of people who are coming here and they're different. And because they're different, and I can relate as being in the truck because I had people from Russia, Puerto Rico, from all around the world, it seemed like. And you just have to learn to understand their culture. They're not trying to be different. They're just trying to live their lives. And if we have these events and we can get people to go to these events, I think it'll go a long way to making our diverse better.
Mr. Bick?
Yes, Well, as a pastor, one of the things that I saw coming into Ottumwa was the need for unity in the community. And so what I did was began building relationships between different denominations, breaking down barriers, which meant breaking down barriers between different races and ethnicities. In our church, we had people from Cambodia, Nigeria, Africa, Russia, the Philippines, my wife's from Philadelphia. That's a different country. So, but what we had to learn was that not everybody shakes hands to greet. So we had to learn how people, like I use the example from the couple from Russia. We had a couple from Russia with a 3-year-old. We always go, oh, the little baby. No, they'll kill you for touching their kid in Russia. So we have these diverse groups. We need to take time to listen and understand their customs. We can't just assume they know ours. We have to take time to learn and integrate the two.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I think we really need to try and celebrate diversity at all levels of our community. I think it's very important to attend and support multicultural festivals and celebrations. I think we need to do a better job of having bilingual signage in our community for people to be able to figure out how to get around our community, especially if they don't speak English. I think we need to embrace and encourage diverse cultures to be put on boards and commissions. And as mayor, that's one of the functions of the mayor. They can appoint community people to boards and commissions. And I think they also should be encouraged to run for public office. We have a lot of marginalized groups in Ottumwa, and I think it's important that we start building bridges with our diverse populations because they do bring a certain enrichment to our community, and they're here, and we need to fully embrace them and have them feel like they're totally part of our community.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some of the same questions that the council candidates received. So the first one was regarding the police department. So we received a question from Edward Wilson regarding supporting an oversight committee. He said, so would you support a citizens police oversight committee? And Rod Stevens asked, where do you stand with the shortage of police and fire? So if you could address oversight committee and shortage of police and fire.
Mr. Bick, you may begin.
Yes, I'll go the second part first. The shortage, they're working on that right now. As a chaplain in the police department, I think they're maybe one person down. The fire department is one that's short, and I understand there's a grant to pay for 3 full-time firefighters. But again, what I'm understanding is no one's applying. Now, as for the other part of the question, can you read the first part of it again? Because it was 2-part too.
Sure. Would you support a citizens police oversight committee?
No, probably not. And the reason is because when you make an oversight committee, most of the people do not understand the workings of the police department. I ride and work with them. I spend over 400 hours a year with them. I do death notifications. I do everything with these guys. So the average citizen really doesn't have a clue. So I don't know how they would oversee the police department unless they knew how the police department operated.
Okay. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I would support some kind of citizen involvement, but instead of an oversight committee, I would probably propose an advisory committee instead of an oversight committee, primarily because the city administrator is the one that appoints the police chief with the approval of the council, and they are there to provide that day in and day out oversight. I do think it's important, though, that citizens have input into the police department and how they operate. So I would be more supportive of a citizens advisory board than a citizens oversight board, because I think we already have the mechanism in place to do that. And I would definitely support keeping our fire and law enforcement people at full FTEs. I think it's very important. The city, the size of Ottumwa, has very robust police and fire protection. And I would be extremely supportive of making sure that those positions are always filled and kept current.
Okay. Mr. Lapointe?
As far as an oversight committee, anything I feel that will get the citizens back involved in this community, because there's a lot of apathy. where people are just living their lives and not really caring what goes on because they feel they don't listen to us anyway. We got to change that. This is one way, working with the police department to see what kind of committee, whether it be an advisory committee or the oversight committee. Let's let the police department tell us how we could set that up. Let the city administrator explore other communities to see what they've got. As far as firefighting, I'm a real big stickler on the fire department. I think day one, even tomorrow, we need to start working on re-staffing the fire department. I believe we're at a dangerous level. We also need to work on fire apparatus or the fire trucks. We've got 2 that, depending on what day it is, if it's going to work or not. Another thing for the fire department I'm going to propose or ask the council to consider is a program called the Junior Firefighter Program. Ask me the question.
So we have a question from Tammy Allison. What is the single most important issue you believe needs to be addressed?
Mr. Johnson, you may begin.
Here again, the big focus for me is economic development, and I know that encompasses a lot of things, but I think, Ottumwa will never grow to the size community it could be if we don't spend a lot of time and energy and invest in economic development activities that's going to entice and bring new industry to our community. Like I said, we need to look at companies that use the skills that our community college ends up training a lot of people for, and they exit our community. The other things are equally important too, but if you don't have jobs with good paying salaries and benefits, you have to have that as a base before the community can grow. So economic development would be probably one of my biggest priorities as mayor.
Mr. LaPointe?
We have a number of things. One of the big things, and this, I guess it's kind of tied with me, would be the public participation in government. When you have an election and you have more people staying home than is voting, you've got a serious problem, and you need to evaluate what can we do to energize and engage people. One of the things that I'd like to propose and I'd like to see is the city re-evaluating the ward system. When we went from the commission form of government to the mayor council form of government, that was one of the things that we were told we were going to get, that they would establish a ward system. And what the ward system is where you'll have somebody from your ward that you vote on, one of your neighbors, hopefully, and you also get to vote on an at-large or the at-large positions. I think that would go a long way in getting people back engaged into what's going on in their community.
Mr. Bick?
Yes, I'm going to go back to unity among the peoples. When I first came here, I got a phone call from a headhunter who told me a story of a company that was going to move to a Ottumwa or another city. They picked 2 cities and the scores were the same. So they, to decide which city it was, they sent people to each community, and they sent them to the churches. And it came back from that Ottumwa, the churches didn't get along. So if the churches don't get along, how are our employees going to get along? So, and I thought that just really bothered me. So that's why I have a passion for, we got multicultural groups. I've spent time with, we do joint services. With bilingual, we had joint church picnics with 27 different churches involved, over 500 people from all different backgrounds, colors, and whatever. And so when you see that happening, you see a community coming together and they're working together, economic development is going to come out of that because people are going to see a healthy community and want to invest in it and develop there.
Okay. So we have a question from Jason Weller. Are you for more industry and new business or another hotel?
Mr. LaPointe, you may begin.
I am for new industry. I am for new business. I am for trying to help existing business and industry in this community to grow. A hotel is a business. We just need to make sure that we're doing it the right way. I'm not saying we didn't do it the right way, but there's a lot of people, and that goes back to at the meeting when our latest hotel was approved, there was nobody here to give an opposing view. Now, I spend a lot of time on social media. I seen the opposition to that hotel. Those people didn't come before the council and express their objections so the council can explain why this was good, what this is going to do, what it's hoped it's going to do. So I'm for any and all business, existing business to expand and how we can help them, and as well as new business.
Okay. Mr. Bick?
Yes, I don't think it's an either or. I think it's both. I'm for both business and the hotel. I was at the last city council meeting where they explained that to get events here at the Bridgeview Center, the first question that they ask is, do you have a hotel within walking distance? Okay, so this hotel will put something within walking distance. It's designed not to really affect the other hotels in town. And we have to look at the age of the inventory there because a lot of our hotels and motels are older. So this is going to bring business, incorporate new business. When people come to events here, they're going to see things and want to do things. I think it's an open door to initiate ideas and new businesses in the community.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I would support both as well. I've talked to Scott Hallgren several times at Bridgeview, and Bridgeview has lost out on getting a lot of larger venues to Ottumwa because of lacking a hotel. Most big convention centers usually have a hotel attached to them, and we've lost out on a lot of different revenue and venues by not having that hotel closely located to Bridgeview. We've lost out on thousands of dollars by not having a hotel next to our event center where people can stay overnight and eat in the restaurant and spend money while they're here for the event. Industry and new business is always something that I'm really very passionate about. And I do think that, like the other gentleman said, a hotel is a business. And so it would just do everything to enhance the revenue and the attraction of people coming to Ottumwa for events. So I would definitely support both.
Okay.
So we have a question from Corin Williams. How would you try to retain current and future OHS Ihcc graduates to the area?
We'll begin with Mr. Bick.
Okay, that's kind of a tough question. I don't know about the high school graduates because some of them are eager to get out of town for some reason because they want to go to college and they have, ulterior motives to get away from parents and everything else. So that's one area. But Indian Hills Community College, I just saw a figure a few minutes ago that 86% of their graduates stay within 10 counties of here. So we're doing a good job of keeping them. We just need to develop other opportunities. We have Job Corps out there. We need to, I think about the industrial park out at the airport and that we have a 6,000 foot runway capable of landing anything. We've got a lot of opportunity out there to do things, to create jobs, to keep those people here.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I think we need to put more effort into developing pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs for our students, especially in the trades. We have a real shortage in Ottumwa of heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electricians. A lot of kids are not always going to be wanting to go get a 4-year bachelor's degree. So I think the more types of apprenticeships we can develop. The other thing, I think, like I said earlier, we need to entice those industries and businesses to come to Iowa and to Ottumwa and offer jobs that our students have been trained to do, because a lot of those jobs are not currently available in Ottumwa.
Mr. LaPointe?
As I stated earlier, this goes for high school students. I'd like to initiate a junior firefighter program. And what that is where 16 and 17-year-olds get to work with the fire department. They get to do the schooling, and by the time they graduate school, they're able to apply for a position within a fire department, either here or somewhere else. School superintendent, when I told him about this, was ecstatic that it's one of the programs that they could put in their new career center. Another thing that I think that we need to do a better job, I talked to somebody who graduated Indian Hills, and they have what they call headhunters, or people coming to interview students for positions. And her concern was is Ottumwa going after these people when they get here saying, look what Ottumwa has. You don't have to pay us relocation fees if you just locate here in Ottumwa. So I think that is a program that we can initiate.
Okay, we have another question from Brenda Case. So she writes, a large local employer is planning to build apartments for its employees. Should the city pass an ordinance that puts protection in place for employees whose employer is also their landlord?
Mr. Johnson, you can begin.
It's my understanding that the employer will not be the landlord of that property. It's being developed by a developer. That one employer has guaranteed to rent so many units for some of their employees, but some of those units are going to be open to the public at large. So it's not going to be a complex that a local employer has built. They're just going to contract for some of those housing units. And I don't really believe that the city needs to intervene in that at all.
Okay. Mr. LaPointe.
I'm assuming that when this gets built, or if it's going to be built, that there will be a lease signed that will specify rules, or if you get to stay when your employment ends, or I think this will all be covered in a lease. I don't think the city needs to get involved in an operation like that. It's not owned by the city. They're paying taxes to the city, and they're providing houses for an employer's employees.
Okay. Mr. Bick?
Yes, this particular unit is under construction now. So it's not a matter of if it's going to be built, it is under construction. And it's my understanding in all this that the employer building it, helping build it is it's a transition time. So they're bringing in a lot of employees from different places. So it gives them a place to live as soon as they get here, but it's a time limitation for them to be there. They have to find other housing, is what the way I understand it. And so I don't think the city needs to get involved with that. Maybe some kind of a slight overview, but I think the city's involvement needs to be in terms of getting other housing available for these people. Obviously, the employer doing this is a result of a housing shortage.
Okay, so our next question is from Kristen Payne. She writes, how do you see the issues in Ottumwa are connected, and what are some ways you would help solve them?
Okay. Mr. LaPointe?
We have a lot of issues here in Ottumwa, and I think our biggest one, and it's been addressed by all three of us, people don't always understand how things are done, or if they're even being done the way they should be. Maybe they're looking in, they're not looking out. I think as mayor, I would want to meet with those people, meet with all the citizens and explain to them, as I said, you're not going to please everybody, because no matter what you do, you're going to upset somebody. But just to be a person who is going to listen to concerns and try to listen to them, because maybe they could change the viewpoint of the city. So I think the biggest way to solve that is to have good communication with citizens.
Mr. Bick?
Well, it's kind of a vague question in some ways, because the issues are all connected and how do you solve them? So what are the issues? You want to define it. So I'm going to go to the comprehensive plan, which covers a whole gamut of things for the city, and that. So we have a guideline of how to solve things, but the mayor needs to be a listener and understand things. And what I'm finding out as I'm going around asking questions is that my perception of things is not right, is because when I find out what's really going on, it's a whole different viewpoint, and there's a different answer. So when I present a correct answer to people in a systematic, logical way, they seem to understand it, and that they go with it better. The roads being one, I don't have time in my minute here to explain the roads, but when you explain the process of repaving the roads, then they understand, oh, okay, that's what we got to go with. It's not a quick fix. So it's an inherited problem. It's not a quick fix. So as the mayor, we need to say, look, at this particular issue is solved like step 1, step 2, step 3, lay out and be understanding and be able to lay out a plan.
Mr. Johnson?
I think anytime that you're dealing with a lot of community issues, you just need to make sure that you're being open-minded and you're willing to let people be heard. I think a lot of times people get frustrated because they don't feel like they're being heard. And I think as mayor, you need to make sure that you're listening to what the people in your community are trying to say. Not that you're always going to be able to fix everything for them. The other thing that I think is very important is if you don't have an answer and you take a complaint from a citizen, you definitely get back to them in a timely manner, whether it's through yourself or through one of the department heads. It's really important to have transparency and good communication. I think that goes a long way in solving issues.
Okay, so we have another question from John Fenner. Why do you want to run for mayor?
This will be our last question. Mr. Bick, you may begin.
I want to run for mayor, or I'm running for mayor because, first of all, I believe God told me to do it. And secondly, is because I have a passion for this city and I want to see it grow. I see unity in the community, that we can be a city that is an example to everybody else, that we have a national disaster coming. I think we need to be a city that's prepared for it, that we become a city that helps other cities, not a city that needs to be helped. And I think we need to present that to everybody. And that's why I wanted to turn the city from all the negative we hear to a positive giving city, instead of the negative that we have going out. And I think I can turn that ship around.
Mr. Johnson?
The main reason that I decided to run for mayor is I truly believe in Ottumwa. This is my home community. I've lived here most all my life. Ottumwa has a lot of potential that still needs to be harnessed. There's a lot of positive things that's been happening in Ottumwa the last several years, and I'd like to continue to be part of that. I've always tried to be, I always have tried to make a difference in the lives of people. And I think a mayor is very much important as far as bringing unity and bringing transparency and good communication to the community. I totally believe in Ottumwa, and that's really why I'm running for mayor. I want to continue to make Ottumwa great again.
Okay. Mr. LaPointe?
I'm running because I'm a listener. I don't villainize people because they have an opposing view of mine. I don't always view people who don't agree with what I think should be done. I think when people feel that they're villainized because they have an opposing view, let's go back to the hotel. There was a lot of people who have serious questions about the hotel. Are they negative people? I don't believe that in a heartbeat. They just don't understand. They need to be presented the facts. They can still be negative, or there I used it, negative. They can still be opposed to it, but if they have a broader understanding, it would go a long way. And that's what I want people to be able to come to me with whatever problems that they're facing, and then we will direct it together and find a solution. That's what I want to see Ottumwa to become. A lot of people feel, well, if I don't agree with the city, then am I done? Okay.
Thank you. I think now we will have each of the candidates make their closing statement, and we will begin with Rick Johnson.
As I said earlier this evening, I've got 46 years of work experience working for the state of Iowa and also for River Hills Community Health Center in the capacity of chief executive officer and also as an area administrator. I do feel I have the skill set and the skills necessary to bring about positive change and bring unity and consensus building to the city council and the city administrator. The short time I've been on the council, I've been extremely impressed with our mayor, our city administrator, and the council. They're all very dedicated people that want what's best for Ottumwa, and I definitely want to be part of that in the future. So thank you.
Okay. Mr. LaPointe?
Again, I want to thank the league for holding this forum, and I want to thank you folks who are in attendance. getting out and learning about the candidates. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the folks at home who are taking their time to watching this or even on a repeat at a later date. I ask for your vote to be your next mayor because I want to lead Ottumwa to return the voice to the citizens. A lot of people don't feel their voices being heard anymore, and I don't think that means they're negative. Together with you, I can work for a return to our fire department fully staffed, as well as getting equipment that they need and can depend upon when they have a call. Same goes for our police department. We have a position, maybe 2 positions that aren't even funded. Streets and sewer economic development will always be something in motion, and we can achieve great things by working together. Thank you again. I ask for your vote for Mayor of the City of Ottumwa.
Thank you. Mr. Bick?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for coming in. I just thank you for the opportunity to be able to share. This has been an incredible learning journey for me. First time running for political office, but I also feel like I have the skill set to lead Ottumwa to a city of unity, because that's what I've done in the past. I've intermingled so many different cultural groups in the years that we've been here and been able to break down those barriers. And so that's why I think I'm the guy to be able to do that, bring unity in the community, which will give everybody a voice in the city. As the others have said, we want everyone to have a voice in the community and move forward and engage everyone to see Ottumwa be all that it can be. I mean, after all, we're a city of bridges and a river of opportunity, and we need to take that slogan and run with it. Thanks. I'm Rick Bick for mayor. Vote for me.
Thank you very much. The League appreciates you running for public office, and we'd like to thank everyone who participated either in person or electronically. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate your participation. Travel safely.
Die of heat stroke.
I'm a